This happened when I was 12 years old. My aunt had sent my little cousin over since no one else was at their house and available to watch him while she had to go out for a few hours. My little cousin was just 3 years old at the time. He was supposed to stay at our house while our aunt was out. My aunt was widowed ever since her husband passed away a few years earlier from health complications. My aunt had her hands full with 6 children of her own after my uncle passed away. Our families were close, so we would usually be over at one another's homes. We lived almost 2 miles from their house. It wasn't really far of a drive, but there were many busy roads that one would have to cross to get from our house to theirs. It was a hot summer afternoon when my little cousin arrived at our house. Since I was 12 years old, I was not exactly happy to be babysitting, but I was excited to see my little cousin. When my aunt dropped him off, he was crying and didn't want to stay. I was in charge of keeping my eyes on him until my parents came back home, since they were also out as well. My other siblings were home, but since I was the oldest, I had to watch everyone. I remember playing and running around the house with my siblings after my aunt left. My little cousin was still sad over his mom leaving, so he didn't want to play with us. When I came back downstairs, I realized that my little cousin was not in the living room. I questioned all of my siblings if they had seen him. We checked the basement, and then the entire house. All of the doors were closed. We then went outside to look for him. We screamed his name a couple of times, but we couldn't find him anywhere.
Johnny?
I was really scared. Where could he have gone? A little while later, my parents came back. I told them I didn't know where my little cousin went. I couldn't find him. My parents drove around the neighborhood for a while and then headed towards my aunt's house. My aunt was also heading back to their house by then. She was so scared and didn't know what to do. We were all scared, actually. We were just so lost at the situation at hand that we didn't even think to call the cops to help us look. When my parents got back home from my aunt's house, they told me that they had found my little 3-year-old cousin sitting outside my aunt's front door, waiting for her. When his mom asked him how he had come all the way home on his own, he told them that he was not alone. He told them that he missed his mom and wanted to come home. He had walked from our house all the way back to their house. If he was not alone, then who was with him? My little cousin was able to tell them that there was a man holding his hand and walked him all the way home. They then asked him who the man was, and he told them that it was his dad. Everyone was in shock and had goosebumps when he said this, since my uncle had passed away a few years earlier, when my cousin was just a little baby. Speechless, my aunt walked over into the other room and retrieved a photo album from a dresser. She flipped through the pages, and then she showed a picture of my uncle when he was still alive and well to my cousin, and asked him if this was the same man that walked him home.
Eme tu no puyo tu pa chocolate no.
Son, is this the same person that helped bring you home?
Yaku daddy na.
That's my daddy. I know that all this sounds crazy, but it's hard to believe that a 3-year-old could have crossed all of those busy streets and navigate all the way back home on his very own. Because he had never walked to our house before. So therefore, there was no way for him to have known the way back home. And though we all still have questions today, there doesn't seem to be any other explanation than what my little cousin had said that day. I mean, maybe his dad really was with him. How else could he have made it home without a scratch, right? I'm just happy that he wasn't hurt or kidnapped. And I'm an adult now. Thinking back on this story, it still gives me the chills, but in a very warm way, if that makes any sense. Whatever happened that day, the outcome of that situation, it was definitely a moment of a higher power. Something that we as humans still don't have an explanation for to this very day. And it still amazes me. Hey everybody, thanks again for tuning in tonight's episode. I want to give a quick shout out to Amy for another story submission. Thank you for taking the time to write out this story and sending it my way and have me narrate it for you. It was a pleasure. And to the rest, I encourage you guys to do the same. If you have any story that you would like to submit over to me, any personal experiences, anything that has to do with horror, even if it's a fictional story, please send it my way, and I would be happy to narrate it on this channel. Once again, I thank all of you, all of my supporters, my fans, for being so patient. You guys have been the best. I wouldn't have gotten this far without all of you, so thank you. And then lastly, I just hope that all of you and your loved ones have been in good health during this time, during this pandemic. It's been a very unfortunate year, but we as people, we can learn from our mistakes and rebuild from this. So stay safe, and we'll be in touch. Thanks, guys. Good night.